faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we'll explore the book titled, Why Don't Students Like School? Why Don't Students Like School? This troubles countless teachers and parents deeply. You see these kids complain of illness when school starts, goes off in class. Not that they're dumb, they easily remember TV plots and gain storylines. But textbook knowledge just won't stick, and they utterly detest teachers' endless drills and rote memorization. If you face these struggles, today's book will surely help you. Author Daniel Willingham is a psychology professor at University of Virginia, dedicated to applying psychology in K-12 education. Originally written to provide teachers professional instructional guidance, but its value extends far beyond that. It offers insights for teachers, parents, and lifelong learners seeking better study methods. Through cognitive psychology and empirical cases, it explains how brains work and answers key learning questions, helping you understand why students dislike school. Now, I'll unpack this book in two parts. First, uncovering reasons why don't students like school. Second, providing solutions, how to make them enjoy school. Let's start with the first question. Why don't students like school? Simply put, learning requires mental effort and active doing. To solve this puzzle, we must first understand how brains think. To demonstrate thinking, try solving this puzzle. Imagine an empty room with a candle, a lighter, and a box of thumbtacks. Your challenge, make the lit candle hover 1 meter high without holding it. You've tried melting wax to stick it, but that fails. What now? The solution's simpler than you think. Empty the thumbtack box, pin the box to the wall at 1 meter, then place the candle on it. Through this little experiment, you discover 3 key characteristics of thinking. First, thinking is slow, unlike our visual system that instantly processes complex scenes. You might see an empty room with a candle, lighter, and thumbtack box, but your thinking system can't immediately solve it. It needs to draw from your knowledge and experiences. Like when the puzzle forbids holding it, you brainstorm other external forces. What could work? No ropes or hooks in the empty room, so hanging it won't work. Maybe you know melted wax is sticky. Could you attach it to the wall? But the puzzle states that fails. Realizing this shows how mentally taxing thinking is. Second characteristic. Thinking demands intense focus, channeling all energy into problem solving while weighing options, and it's still unreliable. You might think endlessly without solving it, since not every thought leads to correct answers. So thinking isn't easy. Students absorb massive new knowledge daily, brains constantly racing. No wonder they get exhausted. No surprise, some students dislike school. If daily life required puzzle-solving level effort, existence would be utterly draining. So how do people navigate each day peacefully in our fast-changing world? The answer is memory. Many recall learning to drive, initially nervous behind the wheel, watching the road while checking mirrors, calculating steering angles during turns. With manual transmission, you also shift gears based on conditions. Your feet stay busy too, clutch or accelerator. If the instructor adds another task, then you instantly get flustered. But after driving for months, familiar with car and roads, your muscle memory improves. You can even chat while driving. Why? What initially required visual, auditory, tactile, even full body effort becomes nearly automatic. Comes naturally, doesn't it? Psychologists explain that after repeated practice, the body forms muscle memory and habits, while love of thinking, curiosity, and learning are innate human traits. But if every little thing in life required deep thought, life would be too tedious and boring. Most of the time, people rely on acquired knowledge and skills, using memory and experience to handle life's challenges with ease. Think back to your school days. If you mastered what the teacher taught the day before, absorbing new content became much easier. For example, if you memorize the Pythagorean theorem, next time you see a right triangle with 2 sides known, you can quickly find the third. Memorizing sine and cosine functions allows you to calculate angles or sides when given side lengths and angles without needing the Pythagorean theorem. Thus, thinking and memory are closely linked. Memory lightens the cognitive load. So, how exactly does this process work? The thinking process boils down to three elements. Environment refers to the problem at hand. For instance, in the candle puzzle earlier, the verbal description is your thinking environment. Similarly, in a Monopoly game, the rules, game pieces, and players' setting all form the thinking environment. Working memory is a system that temporarily stores and processes information, similar to a computer CPU, an active mental space with limited capacity. In other words, only information relevant to solving the current problem gets admitted into this space. For example, in the candle puzzle, the empty room with a candle, lighter, and thumbtacks on the floor can be loaded into working memory. In Monopoly, when a player passes go, they realize they collect $200, or when landing on another's property, they pay rent. These realizations enter the working memory space. So, where does working memory content come from? Partly from environmental input and partly from knowledge and experiences retrieved from long-term memory. So what is long-term memory? Long-term memory is a massive warehouse storing all kinds of knowledge. All your past experiences, books you've read, people you've met, all reside in this warehouse. But they don't constantly surface in consciousness. They require specific triggers, like immediate needs in your environment. In the candle puzzle, you might recall melted wax is sticky and can adhere things. You might remember using thumbtacks to pin a world map on the wall. You might even wonder if the empty room has doors or windows. Once triggered, content moves from long-term to working memory and vice versa. As mentioned earlier, learning through practice processes, working memory into long-term storage. Now let's test this with another problem. Setting aside theory, mentally calculate 18 times 7. First, multiply 8 by 7. Retrieving 8 times 7 is 56 from long-term memory. To remember this fact, the 6 goes in units place, carry 5 to tens. Then, multiply 7 by 1, recalling 7 times 1 is 7. Add the carried 5 to this 7, getting 12, 100, 2 tens. Then attach the unit 6. So the answer is 126. This process clarifies how working and long-term memory differ. Holding 6 in units, 1 in hundreds, 2 in tens, that's working memory. Retrieving 8 times 7 equals 56, and 7 times 1 equals 7, that's long-term memory. Calculation procedures also reside in long-term memory. So what affects thinking effectiveness? If you misperceive environmental information, misreading the problem, mistaking 18 times 7 for 17 times 8, naturally getting wrong answers, or lacking multiplication tables or procedures in long-term memory, you can't compute, or limited working memory, forgetting the units digit while calculating tens or hundreds. What is working memory space? Let me illustrate with an example. In card games, some players remember opponents' discards to deduce their remaining hand. These individuals have larger working memory capacity. All right, let's recap part 1. Thinking is slow, effortful, and unreliable. Thinking involves 3 elements: environment, information source, working memory, and long-term memory. A vast knowledge warehouse, accessible anytime. Working memory is the central processor, the core kitchen where information gets processed. Tasks or procedures in long-term memory, plus working memory capacity, determine thinking success. Thus, students dislike school, not due to teaching quality or lost playtime, but because overly difficult content, mismatched curricula, and unmastered basics make learning painful rather than joyful. So how can we make students love learning and enjoy school? This brings us to our second question. To foster school enjoyment, we must understand thinking's nature, and memory is key to efficient cognition. Here are 4 practical thinking or memory techniques that make learning exponentially more effective. First technique, accumulate background knowledge. Internet joke asks, why memorize ancient poetry? When seeing a handsome guy, say, a gentleman fair as jade walks the earth, instead of, wow, he's hot. When seeing a beauty, say, a peerless maiden stands alone in the north, rather than, OMG, she's gorgeous. Poetry accumulation reveals literary cultivation when it matters most. So, what crucial roles does background knowledge play? First, it enhances reading comprehension. An article isn't just words, it carries implicit context that fundamentally shapes understanding. For example, peacock means peacock. In Chinese culture, it's a symbol of auspiciousness and beauty. People believe a peacock spreading its feathers brings great fortune. In the English-speaking world, peacock is basically a derogatory term, specifically highlighting its prideful and arrogant side. For instance, the phrase, the young peacock, translates not to a young peacock, but to a young, arrogant fellow. In reading comprehension, background knowledge has another vital role, helping you grasp more specialized articles. Say you're currently tackling an English reading passage about biological enzymes. If you already know most enzymes are proteins, but some are RNA, and an option claims all enzymes are proteins, your background knowledge helps you judge correctly. Secondly, background knowledge can boost cognitive abilities. As mentioned earlier, thinking and memory play a more crucial role in daily life. Often, someone seems to be doing logical thinking, but mostly it's just memory retrieval. For example, AlphaGo beat Human Go masters mainly because it memorized hundreds of thousands of game patterns and could recall them instantly. It makes the most precise responses based on the game situation. AlphaGo won not because it's smart, but due to its far larger memory storage than the human brain. Similarly, a cooking expert sees ingredients not as raw stuff but as a ready meal, thanks to their rich culinary knowledge. No need for recipes. An experienced auto mechanic can pinpoint issues just by listening to sounds, because their brain has long linked specific sounds to problem spots. Therefore, accumulating background knowledge enhances reading and thinking effectiveness, is key to better analysis and independent thought, making learning more efficient. The second technique is deliberate practice. First, story. In London, about 25,000 taxi drivers navigate the city daily in their boxy, large black cabs. London's roads are a complex maze. Even with GPS, you might not find your way, yet these drivers seem divinely guided, always delivering passengers accurately. Researchers discovered that London taxi drivers have more active specific brain regions than average people, with enhanced spatial route recognition abilities. This isn't innate talent, but the result of prolonged practice and training. In learning, deliberate practice offers three key benefits. First, it consolidates foundational skills to prepare for more advanced ones. In part one, we learned working memory's key limitation is its finite capacity, a major bottleneck in human cognition. How can we overcome working memory's capacity limits? The first method is continuously accumulating background knowledge. The second method reduces working memory load. Take driving. Initially, this task occupies all working memory space. As practice deepens, movements become coordinated, freeing up that occupied working memory space. Practice merges and compresses knowledge and skills to speed recognition, reduce retrieval time, and form automated responses. For example, elementary students solve multiplication slowly at first, but after mastering the times table through practice, they handle it effortlessly. The second benefit of deliberate practice is preventing forgetting. Forgetting is the brain's instinct. German psychologist Ebbinghaus discovered forgetting begins immediately after learning, follows a rapid, then slow pattern, the famous forgetting curve. To combat forgetting, the best method is regular review, continuously repeating mastered knowledge. Though it sounds tedious, this consolidates cognition and ensures memory accuracy. The third benefit of deliberate practice is facilitating knowledge transfer. What is knowledge transfer? It's when one learning experience influences another. Still confused? Simply put, knowledge transfer means mastering a problem-solving method through learning. When encountering similar problems later, you know how to solve them. A simple example: an elementary math problem describes a 100 cubic meter pool with an inlet and outlet. The inlet fills 10 cubic meters per minute. The outlet drains 5. How long to fill the empty pool? This is a classic reservoir problem. Another problem: Xiaoming wants a $400 phone. He earns $300 per month with $200 expenses. How many months to save enough? Though phrased differently, those with knowledge transfer skills immediately recognize this as another reservoir problem. Now let's revisit our initial question. Is rote practice truly useful? The answer is yes. As the author states, without extensive practice, you cannot master any mental skill. To make rote practice more effective, note these 3 points. First, what to practice? Essentially, deliberate practice automates knowledge modules to pave the way for advanced learning, like memorizing formulas, vocabulary, and grammar for quick recall when needed. Second, when to practice? Short, intensive sessions might work for exams, but not for long-term knowledge retention. Since forgetting rates vary, space out practice for lasting skills. Frequent initially, then gradually reduce. Third, how to practice foundational skills. Mastery through practice doesn't guarantee easy application in complex environments. This requires practicing in progressive environments, constantly pushing beyond comfort zones. For example, some English learners study through British or American TV shows. Level 1, learn new words or phrases. Level 2, study specific expressions. Level 3, imitate pronunciation. Mastering authentic slang becomes level 4. Always challenge yourself to step outside learning comfort zones. Having addressed rote practice, let's tackle another question. Why do children easily remember TV plots and game stories, but struggle to retain classroom lessons and textbook knowledge? In our daily lives, countless things happen every single moment. With limited memory capacity, the brain can't possibly remember everything. So, what kinds of things are most likely to be remembered by our memory system? First, deeply contemplated matters. If you encounter the candle puzzle again, the answer will come effortlessly. Why? Because it's a problem you once painstakingly pondered, now deeply imprinted in your memory. Second, emotionally charged events. TV dramas and games make strong impressions with their suspenseful plots and rich audiovisuals, while classroom knowledge, often abstruse, dull, or demanding intense focus, is harder to retain. This introduces our third efficiency technique, masterful storytelling. Which teachers are most popular in schools? Undoubtedly, those who deliver book knowledge vividly, storytelling teachers. They share 2 traits: full command of subject matter and the ability to explain concepts simply through vivid imagery. When teaching buoyancy in physics, teachers often recount Archimedes' bath story. King Hiero II commissioned a golden crown, but suspected the goldsmith substituted silver for some gold. He summoned Archimedes to verify without damaging the crown. Archimedes pondered for days but found no solution. One day, as he lowered himself into a full bathtub, water overflowed. He felt his body floating slightly. Then he had an epiphany. Objects of equal weight but different volumes displaced different water amounts when submerged. Thrilled, he leapt from the bath and ran home naked. When his breathless servant chased after him, Archimedes was already experimenting. He placed the crown in a full basin, measured overflow, repeated with pure gold, which displaced less water. Thus, he proved the goldsmith added silver. A fascinating story that makes principles more memorable than dry theorems. Therefore, whether in classrooms or at home, storytelling can help students retain knowledge. Next, we'll cover the fourth technique to boost learning efficiency: flexibly applying memory methods. Earlier, we mentioned emotionally charged events, and deeply contemplated matters are easier to remember. But during learning, we sometimes encounter content requiring rote memorization, devoid of emotion and not needing deep thought. For example, the periodic table, key historical events, years, etc. The author introduces several memory techniques in the book. To help you apply them, I've adapted the author's examples into Chinese context for better understanding. First, homophonic memorization. The periodic table, invented by Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev in 1869, orders elements by atomic number. Each corresponds to an element and its proton count. For instance, hydrogen is 1, oxygen is 8. Chemistry teachers often require memorizing the first 20 elements. A homophonic method can help bind elements to numbers through sound associations. Hydrogen 1 is Qing Yi, homophone for Almi, Jin Yi, a role in traditional Chinese opera. Helium 2 is Haier, homophone for Hyler, child, like Red Boy, Hong Haier from Journey to the West. Lithium 3 is Li San, homophone for a common name like John Doe, easy to remember. Beryllium 4 is Pai Shi, homophone for skin allergy test nurses performed before IV drips. Through homophones, unrelated things connect, making dull numbers vivid. Second, rhyming memorization. You've likely noticed rhyming poems are catchy and easier to remember. And regular end rhymes make verses flow smoothly and stick in memory. A classic example from middle school history, remembering years of the First Sino-Japanese War and 100 Days Reform. These occurred in 1895 and 1898. The mnemonic 895 Sino-Japanese War rhymes with Wu. 898 100 Days Reform rhymes with A. Students remember after a few recitations. Third, visual association memorization. When studying geography, memorizing country maps can be really challenging, but it becomes much easier when you associate maps with real-life objects. For example, China's shape resembles a rooster. Australia looks like an upside-down sheep. Italy's shape is like a boot dipping into the Mediterranean. Such vivid associations engage different brain regions to strengthen memory. Another example, Japanese hiragana characters evolved from Chinese cursive script. Comparing them makes memorization easier. Like hiragana A coming from the character AN, hiragana I evolved from E, with similar pronunciation too. Fourth, song and rhyme memorization. Teachers often turn knowledge points into catchy songs or rhymes for students. When I was young, an 80s history textbook opened with a dynastic rhyme I memorized early. Still helpful today. It went, Sha dash Shang dash Western Zhao. Eastern Zhao splits two. Spring dash autumn unite. Warring states fight. Qin unifies, Han divides thrice. Wei Chu Wu, two Jins prolong. North-South dynasty stand strong. Sui Tong, five dynasties flow. Song Yuan Ming Qing, imperial curtain falls. 50 words cover all major dynasties, like the famous 24 solar term song. These melodic, structured rhymes compress knowledge, easing memory load. Mentally reciting them decompresses the information when needed. Fifth, acronym memorization. Examples abound, like SWOT analysis and management. S for strengths, W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, T for threats. Just remember the acronym's components. It becomes effortless. These are practical memory techniques, little cognitive shortcuts. For meaningful knowledge, memorization through understanding works best. For rote content, use tricks like homophones, rhymes, visuals, songs, or acronyms. All right, let's briefly recap today's key points. In part one, we explored why students dislike school. Thinking is a slow and laborious process. It requires absorbing information from the environment and retrieving past knowledge and experiences from long-term memory. This information, knowledge, and experience converge in working memory for processing, ultimately yielding results. If the knowledge stored in long-term memory is inaccurate or incomplete, or if working memory space is too limited, It affects the effectiveness of thinking. In part two, the author introduced some learning techniques that can help students fall in love with learning. First, accumulate background knowledge because it's essential for reading, comprehension, and cognitive abilities. Second, deliberate practice offers three benefits: strengthening foundations, preventing forgetting, and facilitating transfer. Third, be good at storytelling. Weaving knowledge into stories makes it easier to remember. Fourth, memory techniques. For meaningful knowledge points, the best approach is memorizing through understanding. For content requiring rote memorization, you can employ little tricks. Willingham's work explains the entire process of brain thinking from a cognitive psychology perspective and introduces practical learning and memory methods, hoping this content can assist you in educating children or self-learning. Why don't students like school? That concludes our interpretation for you. Listening notes are below the audio. See you next time with another great book.